Hey everybody, I'm back. I thought I would record another story tonight. It's a snowy night here, where I live. It's trying to be as vague as possible. I mean, it's out there where I live, but I'd rather not say right now. Tonight I'm going to read you another one of my stories that I've written. This one's I think I wrote this close to around the same time as Way of the Charmed Snake, which I read last time. And tonight I'm going to read Omniadoodle. Omniadoodle. That sounds funny. Well, alright. But anyway, I'm going to read this. And I try to be rather extemporaneous when it comes to these casts. And I don't know if this will be a clean version of the story, but it'll do, for now at least. Omniadoodle, for Lisa Schwichtenberg. Try that again. For Lisa Schwichtenberg. Beautiful last name. I didn't meditate as such. Sometimes I merely lay there resting. One day, I found an intruder within myself. I know you can sense me, he said, and I'm here to give you a warning. Cease what you're doing, or pay the penalty. What's the penalty? I heard myself ask sleepily. Your dreams are ours, he said. You only make the choices within them. Go outside now and recover what you've lost, or else. I somehow knew that something he said was not entirely true. I will leave, he then said. You will find nothing here at all. And I saw a glimpse of that intruder in a dark room. I can barely remember him, but it was a man, and he had a mostly bald head. The room I also saw was so obscure yet so familiar. My senses danced as I tried to remember where I saw it before. Then, the intruder in the room vanished. I awoke, not knowing what to call this experience. It felt both less than real and more than a dream. I looked on the internet and visited various libraries. I could not find any information involving this kind of visitation. However, one story came close. Barnaby Klimstack lived north of me in West Orange, New Jersey. He died in 1975. On his deathbed, he told his son Jeff about an encounter he had with a being on the slopes of a mountain. The being was, quote, purely in his mind. He told Barnaby that if he did not depart from the mountain and return to his group immediately, the being would make him go mad. The being, a figure in a dark robe, had mentally presented him with a picture book. When Barnaby, an advertising executive for most of his life, saw a particular picture in this book, he immediately knew he could go mad, quote, regardless of his pragmatic nature and sense of Western sophistication. I had found this story in an occult zine. I had no idea if it was legitimate. Over the next few months, I managed to find the publisher of this zine and inquired as to the validity of the Klimstack article. The publisher's email reply was, "It's definitely real. All the stories are. No other mag will publish them because it's real shit. The names are fake. I take those out of novels. You'll want to contact James White if you have any other questions." The publisher then provided an email address and a phone number. I received no response by email, so I called. The phone number the publisher supplied turned out to be Mr. White's office number, and he replied promptly when I called him one weekday afternoon. When I told him the purpose of my call, he replied, "Oh yes, that story. Yes, it's very real, unless he made it up, but it was unlike my father to make up a story like that." I told him I had a similar experience and I wanted to share it with him. There was silence for a moment, and then he said, "All right, but now is not a good time. Are you available to talk on the phone this Friday evening? My wife would be out of the house then, and this is a tough subject for her to deal with. She and my father were really so close. His death was tough on all of us." Maybe he really went mad, I thought. I told Mr. White about the zine publisher's email, how he had mentioned the story was real. "Oh yes," he said, chuckling. "It was real all right, like I said, but not in the way you expect." This gave me pause. "What do you mean?" From the phone, I heard something sounding like a chair creaking, and then a sigh. "It's going to have to wait until Friday," he said. A phone call ended not too long after that. What did he mean that it was real but not in the way I expected? I spent the rest of the week turning questions over and over within my mind. I remembered the Klimstack White story and read it repeatedly. The robed being had transmitted to Mr. White's father a very clear idea what insanity was, and that prompted him to flee from the mountain, causing the robed being to vanish from his mind. I attempted to apply this logic to my own story. Would I go insane if I persisted with my own interior quests? Would the being appear to me again? Was it even the same being that appeared in Mr. White's story? Why didn't I just give this all up, get a job, get married, and forget this whole thing? Just like the being initially suggested I do. I remembered my own words, followed the path, and decided to continue. Excuse me. That Friday, Mr. White surprised me with a call earlier in the day than I expected. I was so taken I stood up as I talked to him. My wife suggested I should apologize for leaving you in suspense, Mr. White said good-naturedly. She really is my better half, I suppose. He then asked if it was all right calling me on what he presumed to be my lunch hour, and then asked, not without pausing somewhat dramatically first, "So, you've been tapped yourself?" "Tapped?" I asked. "Yes, by them." "Are you talking about the being?" I began. "I would hardly call that being tapped. We're speaking a different language," I remember him saying. "It sounds to me like you've studied subjects like this, subjects most people would call paranormal, for a long time. Would that be right?" I told him I've always had a casual interest in subjects like that. I thought many people did. "And according to my experiences, you're right," Mr. White said. "There are many others who don't care for it. I don't understand that myself, as engaging in an experience like the one you've had can come to redefine what anyone thinks of as real. That old chestnut." "Oh, yeah," I said. "I mean, if you see a ghost or a UFO or something and you're an accountant working a 9 to 5 or something like that, it's going to cause some trouble, right?" "Right," Mr. White said. "And the reason I asked you if you've studied that was because, as you may well know already, no matter how small the experience you may have had was, it'll be grand forever afterwards." He paused. "So, tapped may not be the right word for you, but in hindsight, maybe you will consider it as right a word as any to faithfully describe your experience." Right, I said. "I communicate with them, you know." It took me a few moments to register this. "Them, the robed ones. They did not tell me about you," he said. I didn't know what to say to this. "There's a group of us who care to meet you tonight. We've seen them. We can help." "Mr. White," I said, feeling suddenly funny first, then some anxiety. "Yes," he said. It sounded like he exhaled. "Yes, I know. This tends to be—" He paused. "All right. I will call you later on tonight. Or will you call me?" "I'll call you," I said. "All right, then. I'm sorry for being the cause of any discomfort. I'm not used to this yet myself, and it's been 30 years. "I understand." "Yes. All right, then. Goodbye." "Goodbye," I said. Then I hung up, but not before I heard him hang up first. I sat down and then rubbed my face. What was I getting involved with now? A bunch of weirdos who talk to spirit guides? This was getting a bit too bizarre for me. As I was relaxing from this encounter, I thought about going for a walk outside. There had been a sizable snowfall a few nights ago, and I thought it would introduce a nice and well-deserved change of scene. I decided to take my dog out for a walk, too. I couldn't tell you exactly how refreshing going on that walk felt. As my dog and I strolled through the neighborhood, our faces were dusted by loose snow caught in gusts of wind. The sight of snow dancing circles in the wind reminded me of the sights of dust devils I've often seen on televisions or at windy beaches. I thought about what the snow equivalent of that would be called. Snow devils? I thought I had my head too much in the forbidden lately. I wanted to forget about it. Sorry, that was crazy. A little later, as I was warming up my car, I could have sworn I saw something move outside of, yes, the corner of my eye. I really needed to stop this devilry business, if it really was that, and it was beginning to feel to me like it was. I didn't call White back then, at least not that night. I had made a decision not to, and I didn't hear from him. As I thought about it afterwards, I wondered if I was being disingenuous, or a coward. And then I thought if one was taking steps further and further into a murky swamp when one didn't intend to, the most sensible thing one can do is turn around and head back to high and steady ground. I slept, and sometime afterward I felt I needed to explore my family's Roman Catholic faith. I remember taking communion and never going to a CCD class again after that. I wanted nothing to do with the religion business. I came to agree strongly with the attitudes of people I felt were learned, that religion was mostly brainwashing for a dumbed-down populace, perhaps incapable of making their own decisions. I didn't know how I felt about religion now that I was older. What I knew of was the sense of unity I saw in the family who lived across the street from me. They had experienced, they said, miracles with Jesus, though they were Pentecostal and not Roman Catholic. Though I was grateful they shared their miracle stories with me, I kept my own counsel. But how wonderful, I thought, that they can be so happy and be neighborly and so pious. I knew I had to look into religion again and follow the senses strongly within myself. I had dreams about it. There was another story, now done. Not that it took long, self-contained and self-perpetuating within the ink strokes forming the glyph, delegated to the upper right-hand corner of the parchment, as the phenomena of doodles usually were. Sometimes the monk would think how unusual it was indeed that the work he and his brethren undertook, by his Lord's grace, instantaneously influenced the lives of the mass. How peculiar that the mass did not see the obvious. Why, he thought, if I wrote, thought, spoke, and lived the ideas with which a stranger provided me, I would certainly know about it. Don't we feel mosquito when it lands on our bald heads? I would be sure I would certainly know another's influence, and be doubly suspicious of them too. Ad opus! It was the cry of the archdeacon. Or was it the Mother Superior? The monk started his other doodling immediately. Soon, he knew he could eat. Whew, and that was Omniadoodle. And I sound so winded, don't I? Whew, I don't know why. I feel like whenever I read anything that excites me, it really puts a strain on my lungs here. I feel like I should relax a little bit more, but I'm kind of curious to see how this sounded. So I usually just post these without reviewing them, but maybe I will review this one just to see how it comes across. So many things. I want to stop and just hear it over again, maybe. I just provide you with my body noise ASMR. Anyway, yeah, I'm a little tired. It's a little late here, but I did listen to Omniadoodle again, and yeah, there are parts I could cut out. But the spirit of this cast is that I don't really edit it. I keep everything I record just to make it seem a little bit on the rough side, where I can easily cut things out. I can easily re-record things. But the nature of me, my approach to this is just keeping it as real as I can. As real as I can. I hope you enjoyed that. I listened to it again, and I thought it was rather passable. I hope you can give a listen to it again sometime. I struggle so much with what I share online and who I share it with and how do I share things. And I've been kind of doing this online creative stuff. Well, online's been sort of a means to the end, right? For a while. And I've got sort of little to no feedback about any of this stuff I write or create. Well, usually the feedback is kind of on the negative side, but but then again, I think it's probably down the middle. We'll see some good and bad here and there. But I wonder if this is all worth it, though. I think I'm going to keep going with it just a little while longer. I think I'm going to read, what's next on the list? Is it The Watchmen? The Watchmen next. I wrote The Watchmen. The original name of it was The Watch. And I thought that was a bit too ambiguous, a bit too vague. So I put the man in there. Omniadoodle, though. I wish I had somebody to talk to about this. Because trying to come up with something to talk about in regards to the story For me, it's kind of both pretentious and hard at the same time. Oh God. Anyway, I'm laughing because I can think of an analogy that I should share because it sounds funny, but it's way too late and I don't know if it'll come out right. Oh, there it is again. Yeah, this has been JuanCast 6. JuanCast 6. I'm calling it JuanCast 6. What time is it? It's 1:46 a.m. and it's snowy outside. I hear the plows going finally. As much as I would love it to be snowbound, it's not snowbound right now. What I could do, because I'm feeling in a talky mode, I can close this one out, but then I'll record another one. I'll call it like JuanCast 6.5 or something, or addendum or something, just to I don't know, shoot the shit and have some fun. All right, that's enough of this. See you later.